Good evening. Welcome to the Cybersecurity and Cryptocurrency Podcast. I'm your host, Eric English. Today is Wednesday, September the 5th, 2018. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I'm at eEnglish34. On Twitter, at eEnglish34. I've been thinking about doing crazy announcer voice guy at the beginning of these podcast episodes, so I may try to drum up a better intro with a ridiculously over-the-top announcer voice and pipe that in as my intro. I recently started putting music at the beginning and end of these podcasts too, albeit kind of cheesy music. I think it's a little easier to kick off the podcast with some music in the background playing and to end the podcast the same way. So maybe I can add some ridiculous sound effects in here too at some point. For now, we're going to talk about some fun and exciting cryptocurrency stuff today. And I don't really have much for cybersecurity news. I do want to at least talk about the masternode that I set up last night. Follow up on yesterday's podcast. So yesterday, I started setting up a coin called Fossil Coin, setting up their masternode. It's really cheap to get into it. It's like $2, and you can buy the crypto from I think it's Cybex24 or whatever the exchange is that has it. But I figure for $2, I can tinker with this and really little or no risk at all. So I spun that up in AWS, and the cool thing about AWS, the first time you sign up for AWS, they give you 1 year of free stuff. Now, obviously, they're not going to give you the most powerful systems that they have, but you do get 1 year of some free, they call it free tier servers that you can spin up, which is actually pretty slick. Because what I'm finding is that you can actually set up some masternodes with these free tier VMs at AWS, so that it literally costs you nothing to spin up these VMs at AWS. I read somewhere that either Azure or one of these places is doing they always have a tier that's free, regardless if you're a new customer or not. I don't remember which vendor is doing that. I probably should know that before I start talking about it, but I don't remember offhand. So check that out, though. I mean, the free tier of this is plenty to run these masternodes, at least so far from what I've done. Now, I'm not in the big game of the big powerful masternodes with that require thousands of dollars to get into, but I am doing some cheapy ones just to kind of get going and learn how it all works and see that it's, because like anything, I mean, I'm like skeptical. I'm like, is this really this easy? Am I really going to make money doing this? So that's kind of yet to be seen. My masternode has been running for about 12 hours or so. So I don't have any payouts yet. I also don't know where the payout is going to. I assume it's just going to go to my primary wallet that I've got set up. So hopefully that's the case. I'm guessing they pay out on different schedules, maybe once every 24 hours. It could even be once a day, every 3 days, every 5 days, a week, whatever it is. I don't know yet, but this just almost seems too good to be true in a way. So once I can confirm that I've actually made a little bit of money on this, albeit pennies right now, because I'm using one of the cheaper cryptos right now called Fossil Coin. But if I actually start making some money on these masternodes, and you can spin them up for free at AWS, why would you not spin up 60 of these things or more and just host away at AWS? I was also considering and thinking about this, if this is true, and if it's not nearly as resource intensive as mining, which thus far it is not even close to as resource intensive as mining. So if that's true, I'm surprised that hackers are still doing crypto mining malware, and surprised that they're not doing masternode malware. I hope I didn't just give somebody a good idea either, but I think it'd be a lot more stealthy too, because the masternodes really, at least on these lower level cryptos that don't have much transaction volume, the processing power required is minuscule. So it would virtually be undetectable if you're running one of these masternodes on someone's computer. Now, the only trick and really caveat there is that you have to have a port open on your firewall, typically. So that may be where the rub is, and that's why they haven't created this. But there are other ways to set this up in a way that you could get a port to forward to it through a VPN potentially and kind of skate around that. But kind of surprised there's no malware doing that yet. And maybe there will be, but maybe having the port open on the firewall is just such a big issue that they can't mess with it or don't want to mess with it. And to come to think of it, if you create a VPN from somebody's computer out of their network, that's a lot more detectable. But so is crypto mining malware. If you think about it, it's mining away and hogging your system resources and slowing down your computer, slowing down your MikroTik router. Crypto mining malware is really, really obvious in most cases. Now, you can obviously tune your malware to only use certain amounts of CPU to make it less intrusive, but you also don't make as much. So I'd be surprised if we don't see some masternode malware. If this is true, and I can really make some money doing this, and very passive money that I don't really have to do any configuration with except the initial setup, I'd be surprised if there wasn't more of these crypto malware, but instead of using crypto mining, they'd be using these masternodes. So that's yet to be seen, but certainly cool stuff. I'm really digging it so far. It was super easy with Fossil Coin. As I said yesterday, I tried with Linux Pay, and did not have any success. I don't know why. I literally followed the exact same process for setting up the Fossil Coin masternode and had zero issues. It set up super quick, and it was really, really easy. So I don't know what I did wrong with Linux Pay, but I might revisit that one later down the road and try to set it up again. But I never could get that masternode transaction hash to show up for whatever reason. It would never show up in my wallet. I even tried the wallet on 2 different computers, set up 2 totally separate wallets. No luck. But with Fossil, set it up in one wallet, and boom, I was done. I'm still working on the Emerald one, the Emerald coin. What's interesting is Emerald Coin is extremely slow to confirm the transactions, which I'm guessing is why they need some masternodes. Literally, I've been waiting on a pending transaction for about 2 days now, and it's on confirmation like 7 of 8, and it's just been sitting there, which is really weird. So I'm not sure what the deal is with that, but maybe that's why they need more of these masternodes. And that's why there's the incentive, to help confirm these transactions and keep a copy of the blockchain, whatever it is, so that you can confirm these transactions are legitimate. Get those confirmations processed a lot quicker. Because 2 days just to buy a crypto is crazy. Emerald Coin's taking forever. But I'm almost there with Emerald Coin, so hopefully by tomorrow I can report back and say that I've successfully set up a masternode for Emerald Coin too. Anyway, if you're looking to get into masternodes and you don't believe me, go to masternodes.online and check it out for yourself. They got tons of information out there. Unfortunately, today the market took a $12 billion hit. Somehow, some way, the market lost $12 billion in a day, and that really hurt. That really, really, really hurt everything. So this would also affect the profitability of your masternode as well, if you think about it. As the market fluctuates, the profit for your masternode would also fluctuate depending on the value of that particular crypto. So these are all things to consider when you're setting these up, but there are certainly plenty of resources at AWS or Azure or Google with their free tiered service where you can set up oodles and oodles of these servers and pretty much have as many of these masternodes as you want with little or no effort and little or no money that you have to pay up front. Pretty cool. I'm digging it. Masternodes.online. Way easier than mining. Way easier. Doesn't require all that power draw. Doesn't require all the cooling. Doesn't require any of that stuff. Just need a Linux box with a gig of RAM. Anyway, go check it out. With a lot of these cryptos, there's, on masternodes.online, there are a lot of these cryptos that are no longer a project. You'll see their websites are taken down. So make sure you research each of these cryptos before you go and set up a masternode. Make sure that you understand what this crypto's vision is, what they're trying to do. Look at their roadmap. Just make sure it's legit for the most part. I mean, you never know what's going to happen. There's always fraudulent cryptos coming up everywhere, but hopefully you pick the right one and you can make a little bit of money on it. A little passive money. So go check those out. ROI calculators are also posted there. But the market took a huge dip today, $12 billion. This kind of stuff really makes me go back to thinking that this, like in this particular instance, this is market manipulation. We were up to 7,300 for Bitcoin, and Ethereum was getting up to the $300 range again finally, and all of a sudden today, in the blink of an eye, we lose $12 billion, and, to me, that just screams market manipulation. Just screams it. I mean, you take $12 billion out of the market all of a sudden like that. That is crazy. And obviously it's going to make the market tank. Ethereum dropped all the way down to 240. Bitcoin was trading at 6,800, 6,900 in that range. But everything took a major hit because of whoever pulled that $12 billion out of the market. Who in the heck is doing this? Well, could be some investors that manipulate the market this way. And this is another reason why there needs to be some regulations. This is the big push for regulations, so that you can't manipulate the market. People can't just pull $12 billion out, or if they do, it's not going to make the entire market just totally crash. So hopefully with some regulations, we can prevent that market manipulation from going on. But you get these big hedge fund investors that have billions of dollars to play around with. They put all their money in, they wait for it to go up a certain amount, and then they yank it all out. So they put in their 12 bill and wait for the market to go up to a certain number, and then they cash out their 12 bill, and they make even more, and then they do it all over again. It may not be stoppable. We may just have to deal with this kind of stuff. I'm hoping that regulation would stop some of that, but you just never know. I mean, right now it's just wide open. People can invest and do whatever the hell they want. So regulation might be good for us at this point to prevent this kind of stuff from happening. But man, the market took a huge hit. Really, really painful. I thought we were on a really good uptick there. And we were. We were at 7,300 for Bitcoin. It was doing really well. And then, boom, today it just tanked. Keep the faith. It's going to come back. But it's just a shame to see it happen like this all the time. But if you're going to buy, now's the time to buy. And then wait for it to go back up. Just make sure you sell before it tanks again. That's my advice. But if you're looking to get into Bitcoin, do it when it dips like this, because it will go back up. There's so much buzz about Bitcoin everywhere. I even saw at Walmart, of all places, Walmart, no, they're not accepting Bitcoin, but they had a Bitcoin, they called it Bitcoin candy. It was like this little chocolate coin wrapped in gold foil. I thought that was pretty clever. And of all places, Walmart is selling these. Pretty funny, but that just shows you how far Bitcoin has reached. I mean, they're making chocolate coins out of Bitcoin, out of the name. It's the reach of Bitcoin is tremendous compared to what it was, 5 years ago even. And I think with more and more adoption, it's just going to continue to get bigger and bigger and bigger. A lot of these ICOs that are starting up, they only accept cryptos. So investors will buy Bitcoin or Ethereum and fund these ICOs, and that just brings the market up and up and up even further. I think the trend is still going to be upward. Of course, we're going to hit bumps in the road like today, but the overall trend is trending up, so that's good. Some cybersecurity stuff today. There wasn't really anything too crazy to talk about. I did, however, find out that in my environment, at least, we have a single sign-on system, And that single sign-on system was allowing logins from all different countries outside the U.S. So we were able to lock that down, only allow logins from the United States and a few other countries. And that prevents those, brute forces from happening from overseas. It also prevents the inexperienced hackers from overseas trying to hack away and brute force into one of your accounts. The trick is, obviously the hacker could create a VPN to the U.S. and get right around it, but that single sign-on is what we use to get into pretty much all of our cloud applications. They all use SAML, and they use SSO, single sign-on, the SAML 2.0, I think it is. And that is what when you try to sign into any one of these apps, and you type in your email address, it immediately takes you to the single sign-on provider. And as long as you've signed in for that day, then it'll sign you in automatically. It's pretty convenient. Scary at the same time because you get one person's password and you have access to a lot of different applications. But it's done for ease of use. It's done for the users. It's helping them to not have to remember so many dang passwords too. Everybody hates remembering 50 different passwords, and they're just going to write them down. So single sign-on prevents a lot of that. But we were allowing the single sign-ons to happen from any country in the world. And we were seeing, sign-ons from Hong Kong, China, North Korea, South Korea, you name it. I mean, it was crazy how many hits we were getting. And we turned this off, I want to say probably a couple weeks ago now. And the total numbers of hits that we've had since turning this off and blocking those countries, the numbers have gone down dramatically. I don't have a percentage, but if I had to guess, it's at least gone down 50%, if not more. It's been amazing to see, just with this little bit of tweak to our single sign-on stuff and blocking all these countries that we're helping to prevent a lot of these brute force attacks. It could also help prevent password spraying attacks, too. These hackers will get a list of passwords that have been dumped on the web, or they buy it from the dark web or whatever, and they try to use those passwords on any and every site that they can possibly use it on, and they call it spraying because you're just spraying all kinds of usernames and passwords onto these sites and trying to just break in with a known password that's been breached somewhere else. Speaking of being breached somewhere else, Have I Been Pwned? If you haven't looked at that service and you're a security professional, I highly recommend checking that out. It's interesting to see who all's been pwned in your environment using your company email address. That's the scary. Ashley Madison is a really big one that happened. And I looked on Have I Been Pwned, and there were several people that used their work email address on Ashley Madison. Have I Been Pwned can tell you where that email address has been breached and where the password information was breached from, what site it was. So that can really help, if you can tell that, somebody's work email address was used, for example, and all of their passwords were leaked for, whatever cloud application it is. This kind of stuff can be very valuable to you as a security pro. You can say, oh man, Sally hasn't changed her password in 3 months, and it was compromised 10 days ago on this particular site. I need to contact her and reset her password. So, Have I Been Pwned? Very, very cool, very valuable information to check out. I also use a vendor called KnowBe4. It's KnowBe4.com. KnowBe4, they do phishing campaigns and training and all kinds of other stuff. They also have a service similar to Have I Been Pwned. So if you subscribe to KnowBe4's services, they'll give you this report on a monthly basis if you want it. So, you'd really be surprised. And human nature is to what? Reuse your passwords, right? Right? No, I never reuse my password. That's a lie. If anybody says that, they're lying. But if they breach that password on one site, one cloud application, and somebody's reusing that password, guess what? Those password spray attacks could potentially start working if they reuse that password. So that's why it's pertinent to look through that information that you get from Have I Been Pwned or Know Before, and read through all those email addresses and make sure that none of your applications have been breached recently. But also make sure that your users aren't using their work email to sign up for things like Ashley Madison or Facebook or Twitter or whatever it is that is not approved by the company. You want to make sure that you're, locking that down and having talks with people if they are using their work email address for personal use. I've seen a lot of people do it on LinkedIn. They use their work email, which I guess kind of makes sense, but if your company doesn't allow it, then you don't allow it. But I'm not even sure that a lot of companies would have a policy like that unless you're a bank. But I do find it interesting that people want to use their work email on LinkedIn. I always have a junk email account that I use and basically just let everybody spam me there, and I don't really care. I sign up for everything with that account and let it all feed into there, and I just rarely check it. I'll check it once a week just to make sure there's nothing that I missed that's important. But anyway, check out Have I Been Pwned and Know Before if you need to do some phishing training. They've got all kinds of really cool phishing campaigns you can set up. You can customize your own phishing campaigns. You can put payloads and attachments. You can do all kinds of cool stuff with Know Before. The caveat with Know Before is that you have to whitelist all of their IP addresses that they're sending from, obviously, because they're phishing you and they're sending payloads through email. So you do have to whitelist the Know Before services and their IP addresses so that those emails come through so you can do your training and hopefully prevent people from clicking away. But check out those services and make sure that you haven't been pwned on another site. Make sure that your employees have not been pwned on another site as well. And if they have, then you know what to do because you got the information right there. Go check those out if you haven't already subscribed to those. Highly recommend checking those out. I'm still working on my SIM integrations. Definitely hit some snags. And the SIM agent that you have to install, the HIDS agent that you have to install on your critical servers, requires a specific version of PowerShell to be able to install the HIDS agent. And if you don't have that version or higher, then the PowerShell script doesn't work. So we're running into some issues there. We didn't even know that PowerShell was outdated on a few of our systems, so we've had to update that. And then the script runs fine, and we've got a newer version of PowerShell, so that's good on both ends. But there are some snags with it, but it's been great. We've integrated it with Office 365 and our SSO provider, and working on the spam filter. Already got the antivirus logs flowing into there, so really cool stuff to see. Really looking forward to getting this project done so I can talk about it on here and tell everybody the do's and don'ts of everything that I did. But so that's still in progress. I do also want to stay on top of, pretty, I wouldn't say sophisticated, but I guess more common internal pen test findings that happen. And when we have our next internal pen test, the results from that, if I get some cool information and we're able to do some mitigations that most people don't think about, I'll definitely share it with everybody. I think it's incredible what some of these pen testers can do, but if they're already on the internal network, it's just amazing all the stuff they can do. One of the things that we did to prevent responder attacks, I'm not sure if you've heard of Responder, but I think we've talked about it in previous podcasts, but you basically disable NetBIOS over TCP, and you disable LLMNR on all of your systems, and that helps prevent these responder attacks or pass the hash types of attacks. Obviously, it doesn't completely mitigate it, but at least it helps. Mimikatz is also used, so we're looking into some additional ways to mitigate Mimikatz attacks as well. But I'm just hoping that we're not sending passwords over plain text, which we found that with remote desktop protocol, if you're not using RDP over TLS and you save your credentials in your remote desktop shortcuts, then when you double click on that shortcut, it actually sends the username and password in plain text over the network if you're not using RDP over TLS. So we are working to implement that as well. Luckily, we don't have a lot of systems that we have to RDP to, and the ones that we do are not exactly critical. But if we have more moving forward, I certainly want to prevent credentials from being sent in plain text over the network. There's also a solution that stores your credentials for RDP. I forget what the program's called now, of course, because I'm thinking about it. But essentially, it stores all of your RDP creds in this application and automatically passes them for you. Problem there is still, if it's not RDP over TLS, then it's still going over in plain text. So highly recommend, if you haven't already set up RDP over TLS. You'll see that a lot of times when you connect to your servers with RDP, it'll say, we can't verify this certificate. So the certificates are already there. You just have to create the TLS connection from the get-go. I'll do a nice big write-up once I'm done implementing that as well, so we can share that with everybody. Help prevent some of these Mimikatz attacks and responder attacks. Those are kind of the two big ones that we got out of our last internal pen test. So, cool stuff all around, but there wasn't really much newsworthy stuff today in cybersecurity. I was kind of disappointed. A little bit of a quiet week, but I'll keep watching the news. If anything piques my interest, I'll definitely bring it up on here. But over the last few days, there hasn't really been anything too substantial to talk about. But I'll keep watching. I'll keep retweeting articles as I see them. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I'm at eEnglish34, at eEnglish34 on Twitter. You can follow me. I retweet a bunch of these articles that we talk about on here and just other stuff that piques my interest with not only cybersecurity but also cryptocurrencies and various crypto exchanges and whatnot. When they start supporting other currencies and whatnot, I'll retweet those so everybody can stay on top of that. I just started following some of these masternodes people on Twitter, so that's really cool. I'll start retweeting some of that stuff as well, and I think they started following me too, so I think it's pretty awesome. I talk about it for one day and get a few followers out of it. So check out those masternodes and check out these. I just retweeted a post from one of these masternode folks probably about an hour ago, so go check that out. For these masternodes, there's lists and lists of masternodes everywhere you go, but I've been using masternodes.online. So go set one up in AWS with their free tier and start making some money. All right, y'all. That's all I got for today. Thanks, everybody, for listening, and we'll talk tomorrow.